All right. Does it have the red thing?
All right, we are good to go. Hello,
Awesome.
everybody.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's stream for Early Access Week 3, all about demos. Yay! Yes, you have your awesome community manager. That's actually very self-serving. You have your community manager, Kittychix here, and of course, on the other end of the interwebs is your game director, Chris Rubior and/or Euryidium. So, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And with that, Chris, what are we looking at?
All right, guys. Well, apparently Chloe just wants us to jump right into it. So what we have set up for you guys today is we're going to be giving you a demonstration of some of the cool stuff that we've been working on. And then, of course, showing you some work in progress stuff that I think is really awesome. And then, of course, we'll be answering questions and talking about our updates as we kind of move forward and what you guys can expect. So just kind of pepper that in there right now. Everybody hear us okay? If you can't, just let us know. We'll hit a few things and bang on the keyboard, and hopefully that'll fix it.
I think by now we've actually started to figure out what's going on when it comes to how we sound when we stream. Fingers crossed.
All right. So what we're looking at right now is the underbelly of the Savage Lands. If I panned around anymore, you guys would see all the cool locations where I have everything. So I purposely have it strategically set up so that you don't. Funny. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start because I got something really cool that I want to show off. All right, and we're running in Unity today. It'll be a little slow. I apologize, but it's really cool to watch me do stuff in Unity.
And for those who are wondering, because we've actually started to get a lot of questions, we are still running in Unity 4, Unity Pro. We have not made, either way, we haven't made the move to Unity 5 yet. As with, upgrading to any new version of any program, if we do that, things break. And at this point, right now, this very moment, we have not made that jump yet. But there is plenty of talk about doing that because, of course, we want to stay. We want to be able to have as many awesome, good things as are possible. What was that just went rolling along?
That was my helmet. Physics. So when I do stuff in Unity, especially not on my machine, I tend to hork stuff. Check out that beautiful water. That is non-existent. So I tend to break stuff, but it allows me to show off some cool stuff. So I apologize if things look a little out of sort. I'm going to bring this down a little bit so I can get my bar. But right in front of me I have, that's right, the Longbow. We're going to equip that bad boy. This is what I've been wanting to show off. I got some arrows, primitive flint arrow. We got a few of these. These guys stack. And just for you guys, I know how much you love the stacking in Savage Land. So you'll only be able to stack 2 arrows. I'm just kidding. You can stack up to 25.
Please tell me.
All right. Well, let me get on my cool gear that I always drop for myself. There we go.
T-minus to people screaming in agony.
All right. All right. So what I have, everybody, wait for it. There we go. We got our bow. I'm going to fire. We're going to fire. To use the bow, you simply hold the right mouse button down. It'll pull, it'll draw, and then press the left mouse button to fire. Pretty cool, huh? The bow will decay over time, just like other items in the game per use. Arrows have a random chance of recovery, so the better quality the arrow, the better chance you have to recover that arrow. Let's go see if we can find some deer. We've made a lot of improvements to the deer. They will, for the most part, no longer wander out to their deaths out in the water. They've also, as our AI coder John has been tweaking things, they're a little bit more skittish now, which I'm kind of tuning back. They're good. They're okay with the bow, but when you're running up with the hatchet, they tend to jump a little early. So I recommend in the next couple of builds, kind of walk up from behind instead of coming at them face on. Also use the bushes to your advantage. But here we have a doe just kind of minding her own business. I'm going to get into position. There is a little bit of curve to it. Arc, I should say. Oh, crud.
And by arc, you mean it is going to go up a little and then
So
come back down.
I'm going to target just a little bit higher. Let's see if I can hit her. Got her from behind.
So what is the approximate range of the bow right now? I mean, obviously, like I said, approximate.
Oh, really?
I know. I gotta ask.
All right.
I gotta ask. These are
Hold
questions
on.
that are going to be.
I'm dealing with. Man, these wolves.
Okay, well, you see on
Hold
my
on.
stream. Oh, there.
There
Yeah,
we
see,
go.
my stream just caught up to the fact that you've been attacked by a wolf. So.
Yeah. So we're. I'm sorry. I just had to take out a wolf there. There's the deer. You can go into the bushes. She can't see you. Got it. Woohoo! Look at that, boys and girls. We got ourselves a bow. So yeah, this weapon actually paves the way for a lot of cool things that we'll be putting in later on. We'll also be putting in different types of bows and arrows that have different qualities that give you certain damages. Well, we're going to want fire arrows as well. So we've got a lot of cool stuff in the works. But for now, for the next update, not this week, next April 2nd, we will have longbows, and you'll be able to fletch or craft primitive flint arrows for now, with more planned later on.
So let's talk a little bit about why it actually took us some time to get the bow in, because we were doing some work not just on the bow itself, but on the animation system at the same time. Because the bow, when we put it in, we found that it was required a little bit more work than we thought originally it was going to, right?
Yeah, actually, we had to rewrite our animation system, or how certain components of our animation system, to get it to work properly, and make sure that that system is more flexible for the things that we want to do in the long run. So it required a bit of work, rejiggering of Unity, in how we're doing this. So, but our co-team, those guys knocked it out. We got it fixed. So feeling really good. This actually, what you guys see today, will be going up in beta, hopefully today, maybe tomorrow. So you guys will get a chance to play around with stuff and give us feedback, and then from there we'll make some additional tuning and tweaking.
So for that beta, right now we are currently testing. We're working on the build that you're basically looking at right now. We still got a few tweaks that we're trying to get in there, so we aren't quite ready to get that into beta just yet.
Yeah.
But of course, once we have that ready, you'll see it on Facebook or on Twitter. You'll see it in the forums, so make sure you get in there and start hanging out with that. And if you aren't sure how to get into the beta opt-in, if you aren't sure how to opt into testing our beta patches, there are instructions on the forums, and we always make sure that we link those when we post the news about the beta going up. So, okay, a question that we are getting a lot is and that is very specific to updates right now, is what has happened with the bears. Now, we pulled the bears out prior to update 3, or for update 3, because we were finding that when you were hosting games and you were in the bear spawn area, there was a lot of problems. There was a lot of lag that people were seeing as clients on a hosted game. Now, if I am correct, we can say that they will be back for game update 4, because we believe, solved what we think was causing the problem, right?
That is correct. The code team has remedied the issue. The spawners have been turned back on, so bears will be in the game.
Awesome.
And I went ahead and increased their damage, if that was okay with everybody. I didn't think they were doing enough.
Well, they are the dire bear. We don't have just a regular, like a version of a hellstalker or an alpha, or would they be considered the alphas? Do we have a version like the plague wolf coming?
We will have a version of the dire bear that comes out, that will come out at night, a larger alpha type version.
Gotcha. So the dire bear is more the alpha of the bears, and there'll be something like
a variant that will come out at night.
Gotcha. So, hey, those of you who, help us with our wiki, there's a little bit of information for you. Somebody can go write that in, because I'm not going to remember either. Okay, now, one of the first questions we got about the bows, I'm going to scroll back, and hopefully it's still on my screen so I can get the name. If not, No, but I totally remember what the question is. What are some of the properties of the arrows themselves? Will they cause bleeding effects? Will they cause, because I know we've talked about poison, I know we've talked about fire, but if you're just using a regular arrow, what do those arrows do?
The basic, the arrows, the primitive flint arrows that we have in right now are just basic damage. Over time, once PvP comes online, we can we will look at adding things like poison effects. So if you hit somebody, it'll apply poison. Certain types of arrow tips that can cause the player to bleed out, as well as potentially diseased arrow, doing something with decayed flesh so you could disease the tip of the arrow. There's a lot of fun things that we could do.
Do that to creatures that you potentially want to get food from.
Right now, that kind of stuff doesn't necessarily have an impact on the creatures.
Right.
But for the players, we definitely want something to be there. In addition to having flaming arrows, so if you had a flaming arrow and once we get forest fires in, you can set trees on fire, which will be super awesome.
Cool. Now, one of the other things that we have talked a little bit about coming in the upcoming update, a lot of coming in that statement, is Kerr. Kerr is starting to wake up a little and is getting to be a little more active. So can you give a little bit more information, because that of course is very intriguing to our community?
Yes, so as more and more players are making, or I should say exiles, are making their way to the Savage Lands, Kerr is kind of taken notice. And this is all part of our content introduction over time. You're going to notice that he's becoming more and more agitated, and that agitation will lead to some really cool effects. And then the idea is with each and every update that we do, we'll be adding kind of more and more features that kind of capture this dragon's rage.
I see.
So when we go into the armory, which I'll show you in just a second, because I'm just having a ton of fun just shooting these skeletons with these arrows. I'll show off some cool stuff. But yeah, so a lot of cool changes too that we have in the pipeline. I've rebalanced all the weapons. I know you guys are excited by that. Some weapons that were rare have been actually brought down to uncommon. Coal has now replaced wood for the forged armor and the forged weapons. The requirements are slightly less due to the amount of time it takes to mine the coal from rocks. But nonetheless, that has, coal is essentially fuel for the forges. So some big changes there when you guys see the weapons. I've rebalanced the bags. Flesh wrap bags are now 15 slaughters. They're rare. So that's pretty cool. The boar's tusk bag is actually a 10 slot bag now. Amped up the torn rucksack a little bit. So some changes there, to make those bags more valuable. The leather backpack, is now called a dire bear hide backpack. So you can imagine what you're going to need for that. Just in
time for bears to get added back in.
Exactly, and the plague, and the flesh wrap bags will require decayed pelts, which drop off of plague wolves.
Gotcha. Now, just because I'm watching the chat, and something that has come up quite frequently is the decay time for items that are just left sitting in the world. And I know you have seen it. One of our mods showed it to me, where you have a 400 stack tall stack of tree nuts. Things tend to get a little crazy in the game world. Now, I know we've been doing some optimization around that, I believe for the next update, right?
Yes, there has been some tweaks there, but I also want to do some additional changes to food items and items in general that to make the strong boxes, or the pine strong boxes, and any other chests that we put in much more valuable. For example, here's what I'm going to do for that one. For example, I want to add objects that for example, let's say meat. You leave meat out in the world for X amount of time, it'll essentially just rot and go away. Same thing with pelts. They just eventually decay and go away. So this is something I got to look at adding in time, because there's a lot of objects being added to the world, and things that I want you guys to use to store those items are not being used the way I want them to. So I have to make some changes to the decay states, or make some changes to the items all across the board, to make sure that these chests and cool things that we're going to be adding are used in the way that they're meant to be used.
And speaking of decay states, a question that has more recently started to pop up is the idea of trashing an item to actually just destroy it right at the time of basically harvesting, if you will. So, you kill an enemy, you loot the corpse, and it has a pile of, let's say, decayed flesh that you don't want. Is there the concept of just getting rid of it right then and there?
This is something I've given a little bit of thought to. Other MMORPGs do it where you can transmute items, or you can break items down for certain components. It's very possible we may do that. You may get some components in return. You might get some ore back. I got to give it careful thought as we add more items into the game. What makes sense for the system, as well as potentially putting in repair. I mean, there's a lot of things that, as we start putting more and more systems in, how do those systems interact with each other? Does it make sense? We put one thing in and then we got to take another thing out. So we're just being very careful on how we put stuff in. It's a cool idea. I love it. When we do it, just got to make sure it makes sense.
Okay. All right. Do you want to get started on that, or do you want me to answer a couple questions?
I'm going into the armory right now.
I know. Are you ready to talk about what you're seeing in the armory, though?
So there's Kerr. We've actually added flame effects to him now, so he'll breathe fire as he's roaming about the island. It's pretty cool.
Holy moly, that's a lot of fire.
He's starting to become pretty epic. I've also added something into the world. I've been talking about these. These are called Gleaming Chaos Orbs. As we start to slowly introduce magic into the world, these are we're adding. I want to make sure that everything we add is really cool. These orbs are essentially light stones that you can place in structures. So you can pick them up. There's some bugs with them right now. You'll be able to hold them. It doesn't show. I got to change the animator, but it's not seated in your hand. This is why they're not going to go in this update. But you'll be able to use them. You'll be able to set them in your house so that if you want to light up your house, you can do that. Or I'll plop one down. And they'll essentially just float. They're just basically floating light sources. They don't give off any heat, though. And you'll have to mine the gems, basically chaos gem fragments. They'll be mined component. They're going to be relatively uncommon, so it's not like you're going to be mining for high quality ore. So you'll be able to fashion these. These lights will also, or these stones will also have a duration on them, so they'll eventually burn out. But nonetheless, they'll be pretty cool to have at night. And especially if you want to use them as beacons. So if you're lighting up the area, you want players to come and find you, they'll be a pretty cool item to have.
So Chris, Devlin Pixie's just asking in chat that are these the floating lights that you had mentioned on the forums?
Yeah,
they are.
I originally had called them radiant light stones, but I changed it to gleaming chaos orbs because I wanted something just a little bit different. So I didn't want them tied to the radiant gem fragments, which I use for something entirely different. So I wanted to add an entirely new gem into the world that's also magical as well. The gem fragments, much like the radiant light fragments, also light up. So they're pretty cool, but they're a different element altogether. They're also kind of a volatile element in the world. I got some plans on how we could use those orbs in PvP.
So to be clear, they're not replacing the radiant gemstones. This is in addition.
Yeah.
To radiant
So
gemstones.
this new the radiant gems. Let me see if I can add them to the world. The chaos gems fragments are actually new to the world. So they're an entirely different mat altogether.
Awesome. And a question that we are constantly getting now is, when are we going to see fireplaces inside houses so that you can actually build a fireplace?
In time. We're gonna have to make modifications to some of the structures, minus the stone structure, but we'll have to carve out some. We're gonna have to do some rework or some renovating on some of the structures to fit the fireplaces in. It's a great idea. It makes sense to have those in some form, or even putting in a stove. Like a wood burning stove would be pretty cool.
And would probably suit different building types better, depending on how they're constructed. Like, you wouldn't necessarily see a fireplace in a wood house, because you have to line that with. I'm just looking at the fire part of wood burning. Bad. Anyway, it's fine.
You're getting crazy.
You know
Chloe.
what I'm talking about.
I think I do, kinda.
If you have a wooden house, you're not going to have a fireplace in a wooden house. It would have to be a or a wood and stone house.
Well, you can have a stone fireplace.
But that's my point. You have to have two textures put together, which I don't believe we actually have yet. We don't have a mixture of stone and wood, do we?
We can make things happen, Chloe.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's not in there yet.
Not in there yet. So one of the other things that we've done recently is the armor drops that are on the ground now. We've swapped out the models, so they're using the correct models of the new armor that we added when we put in the new character. So they look much better. You don't got these, with the exception of this piece right there, which is an older piece. You'll have these newer pieces that are kind of just, they fit exactly what weapon or what armor piece they are, which is super awesome. No more of these weird looking things that are like these guys right here. It's like, why are crafted chain protectors sitting in the world like that? Nah, everything is kind of nice and put together. It looks really good now. So I'm pretty happy about that. All right, so yeah, I'm really excited about these orbs. I'm super pumped.
And in fact, let's do a giveaway, just because I'm thinking about it.
Chaos Orb, all one word?
Chaos Orb.
That's CHAOSORB as in boy.
I think
all lowercase.
CHAOS? Yeah. Alright, Chaos Orb, all one word. And if you're interested in a free copy of the game, either you're looking for it yourself, or you've got a friend that you'd like to give it to, all one word, which is all one phrase, but no spaces. Just no spaces, guys. You'd think we'd come up with a better way to share this out, but anyway. Alright, so while I'm letting that pile up, give that a few moments. Not sausage orb, Matt, not sausage orbs.
Sausage orbs, nice.
Yeah, so do we have a sausage countdown yet?
Not yet.
I may have just given someone in the community a really terrible idea.
Sausage countdown until they are unleashed upon the world.
These things had better be the most epic. We're going to have to make them absolutely horribly complicated to craft.
Oh, absolutely.
And just be like, one sausage just gives you like 100% health.
Yeah, you're going to need like the intestinal lining from a goat with the meat from a boar, and those are going to be on two opposite ends of the island, so it'll be cool.
Sounds good. All right, I'm going to do a quick pick. Congratulations, Savage Fool. You are one of our winners, and let's get a second one. Dark Raven, congratulations!
Congrats! Woohoo! You are now part of the Savage Lands! Is that what we're giving away, Chloe? We're giving away Savage Lands keys?
That's what I have to give away, so yes.
Welcome to the Savage Lands!
Sorry, I'm stepping on your Wonderful. That's actually what we should have play when you load up the game. Not the current music that we would have. We should have you sing that.
Welcome to the Savage Lands!
And anybody who does pick up a code today, if you can just message me here on Twitch, I'm at the Signal Studios account. After we are done, I'll make sure that you get your codes. So why don't we do a couple of quick questions while you continue to run around in the armory for a bit?
Yeah, I'll show off some stuff. We got I think I've showed this off before, but we got a rabbit that we've been working on.
In fact, that is actually one of the questions that we got, and I'm glad you're showing it off. Who asked me about that? Myles asked if we'd be actually adding more animals. So as you can see on stream right now, we are going to be adding the goat, a cow, and a bison, right? Hey, look at those things.
One of these is a ram, the other one's a cow. We got to do some work on their texturing a little bit more, but yeah, we got more creatures. And of
course the rabbit.
And then the rabbit off in the distance, which we're going to retexture to be more of a floppy snow weird rabbit. Should look really cool.
You don't, it's not a brown thing against a white thing.
No. I want to try to make them as difficult as possible to hunt. Because the game's all about brutal, savage, making your way through this world, getting by.
We're trying to make it as difficult as it is for people to get in and start playing the game. In other words, that is exactly what we are looking at. Let's talk a little bit about how we go about rebalancing, how we make a decision to rebalance something. Because one thing that's come up in the last week or so is about ore drops, specifically medium quality ore, where players have been reporting that they've got lots of high quality and lots of low quality, but medium quality ore, which is used in a large number of recipes, they don't feel like they're actually getting enough drops. So when you hear that kind of feedback, Chris, how do you internalize that? What do you do to go about saying, okay, do I need to change how the balance of the game works?
My first instinct or the first thing I think of is what broke. Because I have all the values on the droppers, and I know how they're kind of set up. So for high quality ore to drop more than medium quality ore makes absolutely no sense to me. Maybe it depends on the type of rock that you're mining. I mean, what would be helpful to me if especially screenshots of, hey, you know, this rock is giving me, you know, more high quality ore than medium ore, be it large, be it small. Those types in our bug form, if you posted those up, that would be incredibly helpful, because right now, based on all the data that I'm seeing in the dropper tables, everything equals out with, you know, stone being one of the most commonative mats that you can get next to coal, and then it kind of goes, it kind of weights down from there. So maybe there's a bug that's happening that we got to take a look at, but it would be really helpful if we could isolate particular rocks that you might be seeing this on as well.
Right. So what it basically comes down to, guys, is the more information that you give us, and we've said this before when we were talking about just giving us general bug reports, but the more information that you can give us about the exact experience that you're having, screenshots, links to, you know, videos or anything else that you may have done, is really, really useful for us, because there are so many different complications that can be in just your computer alone, be it GPUs or graphics cards or anything like that, that when we add in the additional of, well, you're running the game and running it in a, you know, 4,000 by 4,000 square miles. Is it square miles? I can't remember. 4,000 by 4,000. For the island's big, and if you're talking about, hey, this rock specifically, giving us a screenshot that kind of gives us some idea of where you are, super useful.
I've resized some of the meat so you don't got these massive hunks sitting in your hand anymore. Still not perfect, but we're getting there.
Absolutely.
Looks much better. Your fingers only slightly poke through.
It's more the size of a steak now, instead of this great big huge slab that you would be honestly hard pressed to pick up with one hand. You'd probably need a second hand anyway to actually hold some of that. Alright, so that is question. Very frequently being asked, are more buildings coming, specifically in terms of defensive structures? We're talking about walls or barricades, watchtowers, etc. Now, I know one thing that we have in the world right now that isn't being used is we do have some towers that have ladders visible in them. And one of the reasons why they've been blocked off is we actually do not currently have a climb animation, or rather, it's not been implemented into the world. Correct?
That is correct.
What I thought.
Climbing just hasn't been put in because at the moment, all we have are the towers, and it's like, what's really the point? So it's just kind of lower priority at the moment. Something we'll eventually get to once we kind of build out we put in the fortress in the center area of the island, and all sorts of cool stuff that you can kind of mull around once we start incorporating the dragon encounter when you guys go to fight Kerr.
And I know it's been talked about, but we're not quite there yet. Kerr cannot yet set the forest on fire, right?
Not yet, but he will be. He'll be able to in time. The code team's going to be working on that, getting the dragon. You know, in time we'll have the dragon flying around the world, and if he spots you, he'll attack you and kill you. You'll also be able to set, use your torches and set trees on fire, and all sorts of cool stuff. A lot of this stuff is just being added in phases, incorporated in time. I would say our first month has really been about stability, fixing a lot of bugs, getting into some features like bows, doing a lot of balance work to really make the game kind of more fun and enjoyable, and not have to deal with tons of crashes and the normal early access nightmare that you have to deal with in other games. So now that we're kind of past this hump, we're moving on to the next phase. We're going to be looking at adding PvP very soon. I know a lot of this has people worried, like, oh my gosh, people are just going to jump to your server. No, we're going to add in a feature that allows you to set your server to friendly or hostile. Hostile servers will allow you to, go in and cut players down, where friendly servers will essentially be co-op servers, and PvP will be there won't be any. So we'll make sure that we keep that layer, that separation there for those players that just want to work together and enjoy the experience, while other players that want to work together, enjoy the experience, and then stab each other in the back, they can do that as well.
So one thing that started to pop up as people spend more time in their worlds is the concept of reforestation. We don't currently have trees being able to sort of respawn or be planted or grow back. And again, as we spend more time in these worlds and we build them up, it's hard to then, make the decision to hop to a brand new game world and start that process all over again. It's something that Minecraft had to address eventually as well, and they did so through the concept of, well, there are seeds that you plant and water, and hey, look, a tree several days later has appeared. When we get feedback like that, again, how does something like that shape where you decide, or what you decide is the most important things to get added?
Well, we gotta take a look at what's in the pipeline currently and figure out where some of these features, fit. For example, reforestation. Do the trees grow back over time? I'd probably be a big code impacted code, or a big code feature. That's something that we would just figure out a great spot in our timeline to add if it makes sense. If it's something that we can even do in Unity, the code team would have to research all that and find out what's viable with the technology that we currently have. So really it's about assessing the feature, what it's going to take to get it in, and where we're currently at with the other features that we're working on.
So actually that's a great point. We've talked about what's in the current patch that we're looking at, and I know that was actually just linked in the forums a little bit. What kinds of things are we looking for in the very next patch, which would be update 5? Remember?
Well, it's hard to say because we're not even done with update 4. So
sort of the big ticket item that you are hoping to get in for 5.
Maybe the first pass at PvP?
Ooh,
But I can't.
maybe.
I'm not. I'm going to say it now on stream, so it's archived. I can't promise that, but it's something that we'll definitely look into because I want to make sure that we have all the functionality in place that allows you to set the server, at a friendly and hostile. We just want to make sure it feels good. I
Right.
just don't want to put some hacky gameplay in there just because some other game did it. We want to make sure that it's compelling to some degree. I mean, I've already started working on all of the high level PvP features that we're going to have. I'm going to present them to Code, see what they think, and over the next month see what we can hammer out. But we're going to do cool things like potentially leaderboards. I want to get in achievements in the next couple of updates, Steam achievements, and some other cool things I don't want to say just yet that are related to PvP, but I think everybody will find really super awesome.
Really super awesome.
Really super awesome.
One of the biggest questions we're getting hammered in chat with it, well, not hammered, but we're seeing it a lot. The map. How do you feel about the map? The concept of doing either a fog of war, a mini map. What are you looking at? What are your current thoughts on it, I should say?
I'm going to hold on to it for as long as I can to keep the game, to keep putting in a World of Warcraft style map for as long as possible, coming up with solutions that make sense for the type of game experience that we're building. Maybe maybe we'll cave over time, but it has to make, I want it to make sense. So I'm not looking at it today because there are other features that I want to get in, and I think people are doing well. I like the idea that players, everything that they find in the world is kind of this element of discovery versus, oh, look, there's the map. We'll just go over there in those coordinates. And that kind of takes away takes out all that cool, it takes away that experience. I remember playing games from a long time ago. Granted, that was a long time ago. But there was something epic about stumbling upon something and, feeling really good about it and then reaping rewards that are potentially found in that particular area versus just looking on a map. I don't want it to become a wiki game where players are just, or, it's just, you have this embedded map. Next thing you know, you have mods on the map. You got Quest Helper embedded, and next thing you know, you have bots playing the game for you. I'd like to try to avoid that for as long as possible.
And to be clear to those, to everyone in chat who's watching us live, and to everybody who's watching us later on in video, just because we talk about it on stream doesn't mean that we are anywhere close to implementing. I mean, you can hear Chris saying we don't want to necessarily do something wrong. And by wrong, we say it would go against the grain of Savage Lands itself as the game. It is meant to be a hard survival game. It's not meant to be easy. And while we are definitely taking feedback and we listen to the suggestions that everybody makes in the community, it's not a guarantee that we will be able to put something in. Yes, we could throw in a map, but that would dramatically change how the game is played. And that's why when we're talking about adding magic systems or PvP, we take our time with them to make sure that when we're putting them in right. Because the worst thing that we could do is do something that undermines the actual core game play experience, and that, ultimately will change the direction away from where we think Savage Lands needs to go. So, a little bit more feedback there.
But again, I'm not. We could come around in 2 months and say, yeah, maybe we come up with something that's interactive, that players kind of build themselves as they're adventuring through the island. I mean, there are ways that we could add something. I just, again, I just want to make sure it kind of fits the experience versus just having a flat top-down WoW-like map that. Yeah, we'll noodle on it more, guys. We'll figure out. I'll think about it more. I mean, it's. I want to knock out this PvP stuff, and then I'll come back around the horn on that.
And I mean, a great example of how we are still working through things is the compass. We know that there's a lot of concern about how the compass works. Being able to find your body after you die is kind of a big thing, and being able to find other players with regards to where they are on the map is something that we want to be able to help you guys navigate more effectively, and we want it to be a less jarring experience of it. We don't want it to break the fourth wall of the game itself. So there are ways of doing that that we maybe haven't explored or have not implemented in the best way possible yet, and that's what we are honestly focusing a lot of our attentions on, not intention. So
I almost forgot. In addition to bows, I hate myself when I can't jump up that trunk. We also have the ability to throw rocks. Yes, exciting. So let's throw the rock. Boop. There you go. Epic feature, guys. We are done. Let's wrap this up, Chloe.
No comment. No comment whatsoever.
Let's see how far. Let's see how much strength. I'm super awesome, so I'm going to throw this thing. Woohoo! There it goes. All right, good times.
Are you wearing wolf fur? Is that what you're wearing? Because I keep seeing it pop up at the bottom.
I always wear wolf fur. I don't put anything else on. We also added in. You guys have asked for it. We're adding it in. People have asked. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Getting cloth shreds is insane. Guess what we have in the game now? We have a plant, Sundered cotton plant that you'll be able to harvest and get weave from that you can then kind of shape into cloth shreds that you can use for other things. Now, there's one caveat. We got the plant in, and the model's on the way. So we don't have the item in. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get that in today.
So get used to what the plant looks like, so that the next time we talk about it, when we actually have the item in, you will know what you're looking for when you have to go harvest cloth or cotton.
Yeah, well, you actually do need the plant because I'm going to modify the cloth shred droppers so they drop less.
Well, there you go.
So as we get in new features and systems, I will go back to old systems and modify them to accommodate the new stuff that we have in.
Yep. So one thing that is being talked a little bit about in chat is, and this goes back to PvP, and again, as we get closer, we'll likely have John come on and talk a little bit about the server side of things and whatnot as well, because that's sort of all tied in together, is what are the thoughts currently about hack prevention and that kind of stuff when it comes to PvP?
Yeah, especially when you add leaderboards. There are a couple really good third-party solutions out there that we may look into to support. I believe is it VAC? Something that DayZ uses. We'll investigate some of these programs to see how well they would potentially integrate with our game. But yeah, it could. I agree. I mean, that's my biggest fear. I know once you get a competitive landscape out there, suddenly, the hackers and everybody crawls out of the woodwork to be the best on the ladder. So that's definitely something we're going to have to contend with. We'll talk with the code team and we'll figure out the best solution.
Yeah. And we'll likely, I can't guarantee, but we'll likely have someone on from the code team to actually talk a little bit more about that, because that's not something that myself or Chris can necessarily speak to the best at this point. So as we get closer and as we come up to adding that stuff, we're going to talk to people who know this stuff. So.
And I think I mentioned earlier on with there's a wolf. With the changes that we've made to the deer, just remember you want to sneak up on them from behind. They're not going to spot you, or they're not going to be alerted so easily. All right, stupid wolf. So if there's some problems with it, if it becomes if we see some issues while the new patch is in beta, we'll make some changes to them so they're a little bit easier to kill.
Also looks like you've got a skelly in the background there. I'm not sure.
There's a guy. There's a little defiled guy right there. He's kind of blending in with the tree. Let's see if I can I'm gonna give him some flint love here.
Dark Reaper, that kind of goes, so Dark Reaper from chat is asking about what about markers and whatnot for mapping, signs, etc. That's the kind of stuff that we are looking at right now. We know that, for example, people were using build diagrams, uncrafted build diagrams to sort of take advantage of a unintentional way of using them. And it was something that our test team, Logan and Bozy, were actually using themselves. But that's not how the items were intended to be used.
Right. So let me address this.
Yes, definitely.
Let me address this quick. When it comes to markers, the build diagrams are being used because they're incredibly visible. Makes total sense. Why you guys would use them. If we were to build stationary skeletons. Of course, he messes up my whole demo.
This is what you get for playing live.
Yep. So if we were to use, we can't use those X-ray silhouettes because they're very expensive, which is why it's just a huge performance hit. When it comes to markers, again, you always hear me say, we want to build something that makes sense for the game. So if we were to build something like this as a marker, this is cool, but truthfully, you would never find it. Once you kind of move on, even as we kind of carve out the world and add some more interesting elements and so forth, you're still going to be like, wow, I can't find that marker. So I want to make sure that we put markers into the world that you can easily see. I have some ideas on navigational elements that we're gonna get in eventually. I just have to submit them to the code team to get their thoughts. But the Gleaming Chaos Orbs are kind of the first step in that direction. I also want to make Radiant Chaos Orbs, which are larger versions of the stone that you can put out. They'll float up high, and they're kind of like giant flares that you can see from a distance. Now, they're not that great during the day, but at night, you'll definitely be able to see them. I also want to make some improvements to the Pike of Resurrection so that if you're out in the wilderness and you're, let's say, 300-400 meters out, you'll be able to see or at least get some type of directional element from that pike, because technically it is magical, that you can see from a distance and you can use it as kind of a navigational beacon. In addition to corpse finding, I agree with many of you that it's incredibly frustrating to find your corpse, especially when it's in tall grass or a bush. Unless you know the level as well as I do, or some of the other guys that have played hundreds of hours on the forums, you're not going to find your corpse that easy. So we're going to put in a couple things that will help ease that burden a little bit, but not take away that whole element of survival where you got to go out, you still got to find it, where it's at. I don't want to make World of Warcraft where it's like, all right, I'm just spirit form, I'm just going to run. There it is, found it. We're not going to go that route, but we are going to put in some elements that make it a little bit easier. And magically speaking, makes sense for the world that we're building out. So the first step with those markers are the Chaos Orbs that I'm adding, and then we will continually build from there, in addition to some other navigational elements, as well as making the compass much more useful.
Yep. So we are hearing your feedback on the compass especially. It's just a matter of we need to get things in the right order, basically. So we're hearing it. We hear you.
Yeah, we hear you. Let me see if...
Oh, do we hear you?
Let's see. What else do I got? I want to show you guys some cool stuff. Let's see. Hold on. I gotta wait for that.
I've got one more question. Well, not one more. Sure. I do actually have a couple more. But one of the first questions that got posted when I made my thread about today's stream was, so we know that there are potions now in the game.
There will be.
There will be. Sorry. What other kinds of alchemy and herbalism do you see other than, sort of adjusting for health being added?
Oh, poisons and all sorts of cool things like that. Once you add the ability to craft potions and elixirs, I mean, it opens up for a variety of different things. So there's no reason why. Right now, it's just a matter of putting those elements together, because one, for a lot of elixirs and potions, you're going to need a glass vial. Well, where do you get the glass from? Right? I want to make sure that there's these layered elements to the whole crafting system. It's not like, hey, I got a couple frost berries, I got some sundered nuts and a frost fern, I combine it together, and now I have this potion with this magical vial that just suddenly appeared. I want to make sure that you either find the vials, When you consume the elixir, you get the vial, and you can keep the vials so that, or potion bottles, whatever, whatever, depending on whatever it is you craft. You keep those, you put them in your inventory, and you can reuse those for the future. But, does it make sense to mine a particular element? Does it make sense to go find sand on the beaches and then, blow that sand into glass? I want to come up with some really cool ways to do that. For now, we may introduce the glass vials into the dropper system in the villages, and then introduce more complex ways for players to craft them without having to be in the villages down the road.
Sounds good to me. Now, an awful lot of people are curious about the dragon statue that they can see.
That's right. So more and more stuff, we're adding stuff to the world. So that was one of the first things, relics, statues in honor of Kerr that you guys will find. So go explore. I apologize to those guys and gals out there who killed Lycor and they were getting the fashioned longsword. Oh boy, that was a bug on my part. I didn't fix the dropper, but the dropper's fixed in the next build. So Lycor's supposed to drop the Grey Reaver, and that should happen next time around. Also, there are Easter eggs in the world. You just got to find them. I know I saw some posts on the forum that they ran all around the ocean and the shore, all around out in the water, and they didn't find anything. I can assure you it's there because when I saw that post, for my own sanity, I went and looked, and it's there. So, and it does spawn 100% of the time. So, yeah, there you go.
Very good. Devlin had another great question, so just give me 1 second while I scroll up. So talk a little bit about backwards compatibility between game update to game updates and stuff like that. We do our best every time we do a patch update to ensure that we test against old content. That is primarily what our testing guys actually do, is they run around in older game states and play with it. But sometimes using older game saves do have unintentional consequences. Our goal, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, in early access is to make sure that we are backwards compatible, but there are times where, and these most likely are when you actually lose, or we would have a wipe, like we did between alpha and, or basically early alpha and early access, where we had to wipe all game saves, which is a hard choice, but sometimes has to be done in terms of code updates.
Yeah, it's not if and when we have to do it, it's because there's no other option going forward. And we will apologize profusely for it. I thought I saw a skeleton. Sorry. I was wondering why he's down here so far. But we will apologize in advance. But I can assure you, if we have to wipe saves, it's a very good reason, or that because there were a lot of major code changes that required us to do so.
And at this point, we can't guarantee that it's 100% backwards compatible, but we do our best to ensure that it does work with the existing game saves.
It's very true.
Yep.
We do our best.
So, we do indeed. All right, Chris, I'm going to nominate you to give me another giveaway. What are we doing this time?
What's the word?
What's the word?
Longbow.
Longbow? Oh, okay. Give me 1 second, guys. Don't start entering that yet, because I need to do this. All right, longbow. Longbow is the word, and hey, it is actually one word, so you don't have to worry about it right now. There is no other way of doing it. Longbow is the word that you want to be entering into chat. This is for another copy of the game. We will choose another couple of winners just as we get set to wrap up.
Hey, I just Savage mentioned our Unity. This is actually a stock version of Unity that I'm running the game on. We actually use Unity Pro. So what you're seeing here is the feature set is this is the lower end version.
Yeah, and we are, like I said at the beginning, which perhaps he wasn't here for, we are looking at what that what it would be like to implement a Unity 5 version. But when we did some initial testing, we found that there were a few things. What was one of the things that Code said? Water turned fuchsia?
There were just some issues with shaders that we got to work out.
So until we have that set, right now we're more focused on getting things like the Longbow in, which gives us a huge boost to the different types of combat that you could potentially use in the game. So at this point there aren't any creatures that use the Longbow, right? No,
not yet.
Is there potential for that?
Yeah, absolutely. We just gotta, the thing is with the creatures using the Longbow, we just gotta make sure that our animation, work with the animation team, or I should say the animator, the great animator, and make sure that, if we do decide to add creatures like skeletons that use the bow, they're using the proper frames, the skeletal rigs, and so forth. So, but we just got it working. So don't I can't say that you'll see those creatures anytime soon.
Yes, we are expecting that there is probably going to be some bugs and whatnot for it that we're probably going to have to be dealing with in the next updates. Literally,
which is why we're that's why we're going to release it into our beta branch after we do an initial smoke pass, and then you guys can test it and get a taste of all the new changes. After this stream, I have a list of more changes that I've added to the game, so I'll make sure I update the forums. Sorry I haven't been posting for the last few days, guys. I've actually just been knee-deep fixing a lot of bugs and rebalancing all these weapons and armor. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. So, but it's done. At least this round is done. I also pulled weapons out of the crafting table because I'm putting those weapons. I'm going to be adding some more named creatures into the world, and you'll be able to get those weapons as drops from those creatures.
Awesome! Sounds great. I'm looking forward to seeing the new weapons and maybe hearing a little bit of lore about these new named characters as we get ready. We are at about time. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to get out there before I start wrapping this up?
I could use a Red Bull.
Well, you know what? I am 2.5 hours plus away, so I cannot help you with that one. Plus, I only run your schedule. I do not run your bodily functions, so you're on your own for that one.
Yeah, I do want to shout out to DZ. I wasn't trolling you, buddy. I was just, when I saw that post, I was like, I got really worried that maybe I deleted something by accident. So it's all good. Everything's there. So if you guys are going to go look for them, have fun. I did show off another one of the, believe it or not, through the stream today, I did show off one of the locations of another Easter egg. So hopefully you guys paid attention. And it was, I haven't been far, so it's there. The weapon that spawns there, though, oh, did I just give that away? The item that spawns there is a rare spawn, so, at that location.
I wonder where that could be, and well, I don't know what it is, but I'm curious now, so we'll have to go and find it.
With me, it's probably the Grey Reaver. If Lycor, I probably messed up the item dropper.
Well, hopefully not. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. If we did not get to your question, it was not because we did not want to. We just ran out of time. For future, if you want to follow us, make sure you click follow here on Twitch. Follow us on Steam and become part of the official group so you can be notified when we post announcements, when we do events like for these streams. You will all major updates and whatnot like that get actually posted as announcements, so you can be immediately notified as soon as that goes live. You can check out savagelandsgame.com. That is our official website. Everything that is posted on Steam is also posted on there. So plus the search functionality on our website is sometimes a little bit better. Steam likes to eat old posts. You can stay up to date with us on Twitter at SavagelandsGame and on Facebook Wax SavagelandsGame. So we hope to see you next time.
Yeah,
bye, guys.
Oh, everybody's just attacking me.
They love your boat. They're so jealous of the fact that you have a boat and they don't.
That's
they
true.
just want your boat.
Yeah. Before I go, everybody, thank you very much. our update is coming out April 2nd. So, we are still committed very much to delivering updates. That was, we said we were going to do that. I've been transparent. If something's not going to make it in, it's not going to make it in. I'll tell it to you guys like it is, as much as you don't like to hear it. But thank you very much for all the support. We are going to continue to make a great game. Your feedback is incredibly important, and make sure you post those bugs in our bug forum, because we can't fix things if we don't know about them. And it's been incredibly helpful, and the code team and the design team and the art team and the audio team and the production team, everybody thanks you for all of your support. Welcome to the Savage Bus if you're new. For you guys that have been around for a long time, I am eternally grateful for your time that you've spent conquering the Savage Lands. So thank you guys. We'll be on next week. We're going to be talking about the update. Maybe I'll sneak in a couple more things. Maybe I'll fix some droppers that I broke. Who knows? But thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week, and I'll see you on the forums later.
All right. See you guys.
Peace out.